the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
Summertime comes once a year, a time for holidays, a time for rest and fun and games and somewhere nice to stay. I know a place to be, it settles by the sea, the farthest east that you can get on Suffolk's coast, you see. Come to Lowestoft, Lowestoft, where Broadland meets the sea. Come to Lowestoft, Lowestoft, and meet the great North Sea. There's fishing boats and there's sailing boats and oil rigs out at sea. There's motorboats and there's cruisers too, and sandy beaches free. Come to Lowestoft, bring the kids, aunts and uncles too. Spend a holiday, enjoy yourself, there's a welcome here for you. Here we go, come to Lowestoft, Lowestoft, where Broadland meets the sea. Come to Lowestoft, Lowestoft, and meet the great North Sea. There's fishing boats and sailing boats and oil rigs out at sea. There's motorboats and there's cruisers too, and sandy beaches free. Come to Lowestoft, bring the kids, aunts and uncles too. Spend a holiday, enjoy yourself, there's a welcome here for you. And you, and you, and you, there's a welcome here for you. Why don't you spend a holiday in Lowestoft? You'll love it.
Well, we certainly didn't love it some 50 odd years ago, when the war clouds were gathering over Europe. Lowestoft was a frontline town and suffered more aerial attacks than any other area per head of population. And one of the first events to affect the people of Lowestoft was the distribution of gas masks to every man, woman and child in the borough. To us kids it was an exciting time, but for our parents, many of whom could remember the horror of the First World War, these times were indeed harrowing. Tell us all about it, Jack.
Body was issued with a gas mask right throughout the country, and the children had to take them. You know, you had to take them everywhere you went. And the kiddies at school, they would have lessons in the gas mask. They'd walk about to the air raid shelters in the gas mask. All these things to train you to get used to them, because you know they were horrible things. Once you put them on, you wanted to get rid of them.
I know my mother-in-law had one, and that's the best she's ever looked, actually, but that's another story.
I knew your mother-in-law was coming into it. I knew that. Yeah, look at that, John. Teacher putting the gas mask on a little old boy. But look at the 1930s trousers, look. They were khaki shorts, weren't they? And mine was like that, out running around on the harbour beach. And mine had all the arse out. But I still wore them, you know, like the rest of the boys did in the school. But they're the 1930s. See the braces holding them up? If you look on there, you'll see that little boy got braces. And sometimes we'd have the old snake belt. You remember the old snake belts, can't you?
Only too well. I think they brought for the young children, because they're quite frightening thing, these gas masks. What they do here?
Well, these are the Mickey Mouse ones. The government thought this idea up. They were red and blue in colour, had the big eye pieces. They thought they would be attractive to the children. Well, everything's attractive when you get them in the hand the first day, ain't they? But after that, they were like the rest. They didn't want to put them on. I think they were about 4-year-old till about 7 years old, the Mickey Mouses.
And I think you've got in your collection there how we try to protect the babies from the gas.
Yeah. We can see the babies' gas masks. Now, they weren't called gas masks. Not for the babies. They were called gas helmets. The nurse would put the baby into the gas helmet, strap it in, and on the sides of the gas helmets was a little pump where they hand pumped air into the baby. Now, you imagine that nurse and the nurses in the hospital looking after all them babies when the gas alarm had gone, and then they got to get their own gas mask on. Even the mums who had 4 or 5 children, half the population would have been dead, John. Would have been. Old paddle steamers, you know, the old bell steamers and that, they used to come up, and this one is the Royal Eagle, and it's brought all the children from the Dagenham and Essex area to Lowestoft, where they were taken round to the schools for billets, and then the following day distributed amongst the little country villages, and then the following year all the Lowestoft children were evacuated. But there you can see the Royal Eagle.
Where did she moor up?
She moored up at the Claremont Pier, and when the reporters went aboard and asked the children where they'd come from, they said England.
Bless her hearts.
There we see the old bell coaches and that waiting up the seafront, ready to run these children to their different destinations. Some of the local people had turned out to watch, but that was simply ludicrous, bringing them London children to Lowestoft, which they knew in the First World War got bombarded and shelled. And Yarmouth said they were the same. We were stupid here, having them like come to Lowestoft sort of thing. But them buses are still about, you know, John. They call them flying bananas.
Yes, of course they do.
Now we're in Claremont Road. There you see the little old children boarding the buses. No suitcases, but pillowcases, what most of them had, and the old gas mask. And these are sights we never want to see no more. I don't want my grandchildren to go through what we went through. I was in Lowestoft right up till the last year of the war when I got called up, but you know, this sort of thing you just don't want to see no more. This again is the Royal Eagle. The reason I put this one in is there you can see her in all her beauty, in all her glory. And then after she brought the London children to Lowestoft, the Royal Naval Patrol Service commissioned them then for minesweeping, and on the next slide we'll show you the same ship in her battle colours. Now you'll see a big difference here, John, a hell of a difference. All these old paddle steamers was commissioned for the patrol service because they could go in shallow water, you know. Now look at that, there are the guns, look. And here we come, look, right up to the old bridge. And there you can see the difference of what the Navy done to the Royal Eagle. The sister ship Royal Daffodil, that went to Yarmouth, I meant to say before. But here we have the old Royal Eagle in all her glory. A lot of these old paddle steamers were sunk at Dunkirk and them places, you know. They done sterling work. Yeah, boy, everyone in England had one of them, a registration identity card. You had to carry that everywhere. I was evacuated for a month, John, you know, and I came home after the month was up, and I got stopped about 20 times in a car with Mr. Gardner, the local window cleaner, and I passed myself off as his son all the way to Lowestoft, right from Clown in Derbyshire.
In 40, Jack, troops came in and barbed wire all the beaches and the Deans. I believe you've got a story about that.
Yeah, well, as me, Johnny Woolley, and Ronnie Wilson, known as Titch Wilson, we were in a naval cadet, you see, and we were walking along Waplow Road, and somebody stopped and said there was some nuts and oranges washed ashore. So we didn't realise at the time that the Deans were mined. We knew it was all barbed wire. So we walked across the Deans, got on the sea wall, couldn't see no oranges or anything, you know. It was just to get us going. And when we come along the wall, there was this petty officer and sailors waving to us, because we were waving back. But they were trying to get us to get off and come out of it, you see. And of course, when they did come up to us, the first time I knew then I never had a father. He called me everything, he did. This is a very what we call children's corner there, John, and now you can see the old pair pavilion we lost. The bandstand got bombed. A lot of people don't realise that. That's how near that to the pavilion that got. But there we can see the oldness and that, what used to be the restaurant on the pier, that right half moon black shaped building. And then you can see two ATS girls. Well, they were billeted in the yacht club. They had a buffer gun in there and some oldness nuts in there. Now you can see how they let people use the children's corner for a little while. This was at the beginning of the war, before, you know, everything really got started. And then of course that was all mined.
And the lovely old pavilion in the background, Jack.
Yep, yeah, the old lovely pavilion. I always did regret that going, you know. They should never have took it down. It was a beautiful building. This is the Claremont Pier, you can see. Now look, there's no buildings in front of that pier. See how they're all taken away, in the middle of the bridge blown up. And if we look just in the background, we see a big tall house. That was next to the Wellington Gardens. That was pulled down and they built them senior citizens places there. Is it Petal Court or some name like that?
What a bleak old place Lowestoft was during the war, wasn't it?
Oh, during the war, yes, yeah. But you can't tell me nothing about my Lowestoft peacetime. And that spoiled it, I'll admit that. They've completely knackered it up, John. Wellington Gardens, those men are digging a slit trench. And the reason for that slit trench is if you're walking down the middle drive, an enemy aircraft come in machine gunning, then you had somewhere to jump into. But you jump in there after a good night's rain.
Or if you've had a couple of drinks.
Couple of drinks, yeah. And there you can see that big house I was trying to explain what they pulled down. Look, and all that property opposite is the Wellington Terrace. But I could go into a lot of detail here, but I shan't, because the people like to see the slides.
Well, we lost some lovely old Victorian railings.
What the people don't know, John, or the youngsters today, every house in Lowestoft had front railings. And you'd wake up one morning, you'd hear clattering and a banging, you'd look out the window and see your railings being taken away for scrap. Now this went on, and then they replaced your walls. They done your walls, but some of them railings went in as reinforcement rods in concrete. The old Battery Green car park was full of these people's railings, but they were only as reinforcement rods. This gives you an example, John, of how the walls looked after they went away with your railings. Look, heaps of bricks. Now that's Howard Street. I don't know if you know where Howard Street is, but that's Howard Street.
Elegant railings have gone, the Victorian railings, and they did these little brickwork.
They did these little walls, John. There's still some about Lowestoft. If you look, you can see part of the old wall there. Look, that black brick. Then they put bricks standing upright. And that's how they done all the walls. But since the war, a lot of them walls have been built up to the heights of the railings and that sort of thing. This one I think was in Maidstone Road. Maidstone Road. These are the old Anderson air raid shelters. They weren't very popular with people. They were damp, they were earthy and all this sort of thing. And we had one in Old Nelson Street. And we had hurricane lights down there where we used to come out like the Kentucky minstrels, John, you know.
Now, did you have to pay for these or not?
If you earned up to £300 a year, you were all right. Over £300, you paid £7 for them. But the corporation workers didn't put them all up. They delivered, but you had to get people to help you to put them in, or some of them did. The old ladies couldn't, so I suppose they got a bit of help that way. But God, just bring back memories to me, John. That's Whitehall Street. All them little old shelters there. I used to spend many a night down there, but the air raid siren hadn't gone and nothing, and there wasn't no bombs dropping.
Well, I've got to say, I reckon the girls are in more danger with you than they were the bombing, weren't they, in there?
Well, I wouldn't like to say that, but I've had a good few nights down on. I enjoyed it when I was down there, I tell you. This is the way they were delivered, John, over by lorry or the old horse and cart, you know. And that lady's holding a section of it, of the Anderson shelters, but as I said, they weren't very popular, and later on we'll be able to talk about the Morrison Table shelter, where you didn't have to leave your house and you were in the comfort of your house all the time.
Well, I can remember as a boy, we had one of these shelters exactly like this. The little doorway made a wooden doorway, and because sometimes my mother tried to wallpaper the inside to make it look a bit something, but when you went down there, Jack, it always smelt dank and
earthy, yeah, and you had one or two little insects run up and down the walls. We put bunk beds in and that sort of thing, but we didn't sleep down them very often. This is a picture in a magazine, you see, showing your happy family going down the shelter. But what people didn't realise was what was to come, and we can show you the reality on another next slide to this. This is the reality, as you can see. That crinkled work behind them is an air raid shelter. So regardless of being liked, they did at least save lives. But most of the people preferred under the table, under the stairs, or under the cellars, or wherever they could get to, you know. But when the Morrison Table shelters come, they were the godsend.
Unless I'm mistaken, that's our old Tuttle's Corner.
That's Tuttle's Corner, John, and you can see the lampposts look painted white, then a strip of black, then white. This was for the blackout. You even had the curbstones painted like that. But this is a wartime coup. People moan about the coups today. That's Suffolk Road going right back there. Now, those people aren't going in for sale at Tuttle's. Right at the very end, you might remember, it was a little shop called the Maypole.
Yes, I do.
And there was either some butter or grocery or something coming, and there the people turn up to purchase that what came in, you know. And if you look, all the names are all for Tuttle's, look. They done that to a lot of shops, so if the enemy landed at it, they weren't supposed to know where they were and all this bull, you know. But if you see a German with a fixed bayonet walking up the street, you'd tell them, wouldn't you?
But he was issued with the ration book, of course. Yeah. That was the Bible of the war.
Yeah, certainly was, John. Now, they had three colours. The babies was green. The junior school children, look. See that?
You mean the babies were green or the books were green?
The books were green, old mate. And the children's were blue, look. And then the grown-ups was a buff colour. Now, you couldn't go to any shop. You had to keep to the same grocer until you got a new ration book. Then you could change it, but you had to keep to the same grocer all the time. You know, I couldn't...
You were registered, like registered?
Yeah, you couldn't go in any grocery shop and get anything. You had to keep to your same grocer.
Well, I've got an old ration book here, Jack, and it shows that we're allowed 8 ounces of sugar, 2 ounces of tea, 8 pennyworth of meat, 2 ounces of butter, 1 ounce of cheese, 4 ounces of margarine, and 2 ounces of cooking fat. 1 solitary egg. Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Home Guard, John, you can't talk about wartime Lowestoft without the old Home Guard in it, Dad's Army. They used to be the LDV, Local Defence Volunteer, but Churchill didn't like that, so he called it the Home Guard. But we used to say LDV, look, duck and vanish.
I believe you've got some more slides of this, Jack.
Yeah, I've got a couple of more to show, and then, you know, we'll see the old Home Guard outside the village churches where they used to guard, and if there had been an invasion, then the church bells would have rung, you know. Back to the Home Guard again, John. When I was in the Army, you know, I'd done 3.5 years training for the Navy, didn't I? Then I got called up for the Army, but we'd be lined up like this, and the old sergeant would walk to the first man, and he'd send a message right the way down the ranks, till he got to the last man, then he'd go down here what he had to say. But he'd go walking up to the first man. He said, I've got a message for you to send down the ranks, old son. Send reinforcements we are going to advance. So away he'd go, right to the end man, and he'd say, what was the message? And the bloke would say, send a 3 and 4pence, we are going to a dance.
Lovely. I think you're kidding, Mr. Hitler. Look, they're the boys who helped to protect Lowestoft against invasion. Who are they?
Well, you can see that young guard crack shot team now, look, got the cup and the rifles. The lad at the middle is Jackie Guymer, an old school friend of mine.
Oh, in the front row?
No, at the back, in the middle at the back. There's 3 of them at the back, isn't there?
Yeah.
At the middle is Jackie Guymer. He's just retired these last few years as a policeman. Yeah. And the one just on the left in the front was Mr. Rand, the hairdresser. He was in Stanley Street, then he moved to Suffolk Road.
Because they had to do all their training after work, didn't they?
Oh yeah, Jackie was a bricklayer's labourer like me during the war years, and then shitting about on the roofs, putting the slates and tiles on after the bombs had dropped, and then they'd go and do this spare duty as home guard to defend the coast. They take a mickey out of them now, but them people took it serious during the war.
I wasn't good, because I'd be working on the farm, you see. I had to go and do my bit. Because I didn't have to go into the proper army like my brother George, but we had to go into these here home guards, you see. He sat nice, he say, you go down to the village hall, he saying, you'll have to register, he saying, son, you're not there to be in these here home guards, he say. I say, all right, old partner. So that night, I went down to the village hall and I had to sign a bit of paper to say I'd be in the home guard and that sort of thing. They give me, they say, uniform to put on, tin hat, what I got on now. Up they come and give me a rifle, So it says, sergeant, he come up, he say, sling your rifle, he say. So I slung mine at the ditch. He say, what you do that for? I say, you said sling your rifle, you say. He say, I don't mean that, he say, I mean you got to sling it over your shoulder, he say. He say, with the bayonet on the end, he say. And then if any of these here German parachuters come down, he say, they'll land on your bayonet. I say, blast, that's a good idea. Which I did one night, there was a couple come down on my bayonet, I didn't know they were there. I wouldn't notice it, I had one sat the other, he say, move you up, I'm a falling off. That's the truth, yeah. Anyhow, I tell you what we used to have to do, We used to have to walk around the village of a night time, you see, and see there wasn't the one got a light and on, and see there wasn't on these here German parachutes come down, do you see? And sort of report what was going on, you see. So I was walking around one night there, and there's an old gal, she got a light shining out of her bedroom, out of her downstairs window. Well, boy, that shone out of her window, that lit the whole wood up, And so I went up and I knocked on the door. Old gal put her head out the bedroom window. I say, missus, I say, don't you know you're gone to bed? I said, you left the light shining on here. Look, I say, if you don't come down and put that light out, I say, you'll have these head Germans come and drop their bombs on you. She say, well, I can't come down there. I say, what do you mean you can't come down? I say, you'll have to come down and put this here light out. She say, I can't come down there. She say, I'm on to the doctor. I say, well, one on your head, come down.
Now here's all the evacuees on the Lowestoft railway station waiting to go on their journey to, Derbyshire, up the Midlands, and Clown, Cresswell, Worksop, Bowls, over all that area.
It was a harrowing experience for the mums. The children really didn't know where they were going. They thought it was like a holiday, but for the mums and dads, very harrowing.
Yeah, well, I went with them for a month, John, and I played up to go. It weren't compulsory, you didn't have to go, but I was the only one went, and then when I got there I wanted to be coming back again, but you know how it is, we're going to a place where there's beautiful mountains, valleys and dales, and of course all the kids were elated at going, but when they got there it was a different story. We thought we were going straight in billets. That didn't work out that way. We got off the trains and then we were taken in groups for people knocking on the doors, please can you take, will you take? And I sat back, I kept right back till I was the last one, and that was getting dark then by the time they took me in. But poor old lady about 70 took me in. I suppose she felt sorry for me. Some of the schools, they paraded them in the town hall and they were picked out like cattle. Yeah, John, I was about 13 or 14 year old, senior boys school, Roman Hill. Now, look at them, all them little old happy faces, look. But they were no corridor trains. So when we wanted to tiddle, we had to open the windows and tiddle out of the windows. But I don't know how the girls got on, because they were on there as well. I don't know if you got any ideas.
I don't know, we'll have to ask one or two of the ladies in the town. Interesting picture, Jack.
Del Road School at Sherwood Forest, and the photographer had the audacity to say to them children, smile. Some of the Roman Hill evacuees at Clown having a drawing lesson. I only know two on there. The boy on the right in front there is Georgie Boggers, and then next to him the lad with his hair all stuck up on end was yours truly. And I didn't know this photograph existed till we done the slideshow on the marina. That was given to me a couple of days later.
Looks as if somebody's frightened you, Jack.
Yeah, they now ask for the poll tax. This is a map of Lowestoft, and I emphasise Lowestoft. You know, it was the most heaviest bombed town in England during the war, and all those black dots we see on there are where bombs fell during the war years. Now, it's a pity we couldn't get the full map on, John, but this will just give you an idea, because when the Germans took over Holland, that made lots of hit and run all the time.
This building, you're not showing for nothing, Jack. It's got special significance, I know.
Well, that's one of the first buildings bombed in Lowestoft during the war. The first raid of Lowestoft was at the Gunton, the Gunton Woods, and on the Galston Road. They were the first bombs. Now, the second raid was the Co-op, Gasworks, and all that area.
This is next to the library today.
The library's further down, John. That's the what used to be the technical school. This today on this corner would be that big tall glass building where births and deaths have now moved out of, and where you see the little old Co-op shop there. Can you remember them girls putting that money in them balls, and then they put them on the wire, pull the lever? I used to whiz round the shop. Well, that's the Clapham Road Co-op. Look, there's the Co-op, John. Look, that's what happened to it. There's all the sailors and that come down there in case they're needed, but as luck had it, there weren't no bodies in the Co-op, not to my knowledge. But
this was an afternoon raid, wasn't it?
Well, I can't even remember.
Yes, I can.
That,
I can
John,
remember this afternoon raid, and I think this really brought it home to Lowestoft that war had begun after the phony war.
Yeah, well, this was, as I said, the first raid where there was any casualties, and that was the second raid, but we'll gradually progress through the bombing as we go along. But I can't remember this, because I'll tell you why. I came home 2 days after the Co-op was bombed. Here we have the technical school, which was on the opposite side of the road to the Co-op. And then next to this, we had the library, which was also bombed, but we'll show you that. To go to this school, you had to have brains, John. That's why I didn't go. But that was the technical school where all the scholars and students went learn drawing and arts and crafts. And of course, we weren't cut out for that, were we? Lowestoft Library, Clapham Road. There you see it. From there, you'll never guess where they went to, John. They went up to the Royal Falcon. You know what used to be East Home School?
Well, the library did, yeah. Yeah,
and then from there, after the war, they moved down to Suffolk Road.
This was the tallest building in Lowestoft, you know.
Yeah, I've heard you say this before, but carry on.
Well, they had more stories than anywhere else, didn't it?
Oh dear. I give up with you. This is how Lowestoft Library would look before that was bombed. Beautiful building, beautiful architect there. Today all they can make is cardboard or concrete boxes, John. All that lovely work gone into that. Today you don't get that, you just get bricks in the shape of a square box. They can't put a sloping roof on now. I think they forgot how, but see how nice that is. This is Matthews and Durrant's garage opposite the library. That also got bombed, as you can see. Now in the background, more or less middle, you can see a tall building. That's the old Artsabrook Public House today. But that's all Matthews and Durrant's garage.
And this would be the car park across right opposite the library, wouldn't it?
We can show you the picture of the car park, John. I brought a slide with me.
This is, of course, after the war, Jack, and the car park. Now, if you go on there, you can't find a place to park.
Not today, you can't, can you? But you can see the Artsabrook again, that little white building, in more or less over towards centre there. But this was what we now looked at with them cars all being burnt out. Now we come to the London Road North, John. Here we have on this corner Robertson on the corner of Milton Road, not to be confused with the shop opposite, which was Robertson's.
Where they sold the ladies' things.
Yeah, all ladies' things there. I'd like to have bought some of them, but never mind. And then next door you got Morland's music shop. London Road North again, where we see the bay windows, that would be in the arcade, the journal offices in that area today. Then we can see a long building with like a archway over, that was the water and gas company in them days. And then on the next slide I'll give you a view looking up from Paradise the Chemist, because this is a scene really looking for what we now see Morland's down to Paradise the Chemist, so we'll come up again and then show you from that angle. This is the view looking up from Regent Road. There on the corner you had old Paradise the Chemist. Years ago he used to be famed for making his own scent. And there was a big flag flying outside, North Sea Spray, that's what he named it, North Sea Spray. Then you had Alfred's bicycle shop, and then you can see the shop with the like curved arch over, that was the water and gas company. Today all that's gone, that's all Westgates today, but we should show you that on another slide. Now putting them two slides together, John, this is the full effect. Looking from Regent Road right up to Milton Road, and there you got the effect. Now look at them houses there carefully. They've all gone, and the next slide I'll show you where we are for the people who don't know much about Lowestoft, who have settled in Lowestoft since the war years. The bomb damage we now looked at, John, same view. People might be able to switch the video back if they want to and see the full effect of it, but that's Westgate. Before then that was the Co-op. I expect you remember Co-op there, because you told me that story about Father Christmas in the Marine. Didn't you?
That's right. Right, Jack, that's an interesting shot. Let's see what we've got next. The old Lowestoft police station.
It is, John. That's Regent Road, and you can see the battle scarred, and you can see all the bomb blast on the police station, that little courthouse roof. We'll show you the porch of that later on, because I'll tell you why what a shot, because that was only pulled down last week, and that broke my heart really, because that was a really like a monument to Lowestoft, that little porch, and I'll explain why when we come to it. But there you are. You said the police station used to be a bank, and I said to you why, and you said it used to be full of coppers. This slide I thought I must put in, because last week this little porch was pulled down, and to me that was a monument of the Second World War in my way of thinking. As I told you, that was bomb blasted, bomb scarred, cut by shrapnel, machine gun bullet holes all over here, round about. Now that's all gone, and so is them memories of that raid. This is the raid on Woolworths, known as an oil bomb, a bomb full of oily inflammable substance dropped, And if you look at them twisted girders, you'll see the heat in that bomb. And now you can see the old Roman Catholic Church at the back. That church stood up all the war years, surrounded by bombs and bomb damage. But there you are, Woolworths. When they moved it, that went up to Kirkley Hall, which is now Folger's furniture shop, which you know right well, opposite the Grand Cinema. And then when Woolworths was rebuilt, back came Woolies to the north end of the town. As I said, you could see the twisted metal, and now you can see the firemen spraying the water on the twisted metal. It was a heck of a bomb to do that, but they had several of these oil bombs dropped on Lowestoft. I remember one down on Frost Alley, at the bottom of Frost Alley School. But this gives you a general view of what an oil bomb can do. Here we have the Woods Loop bomb, and this was a bad raid. There were several people killed up there. A whole row of cottages went here, a whole row of them. Now, we're coming to the bomb, and we got them mixed in there and there, John, so I'll put them through and then go from there. But I haven't got none of these slides in order, I'll be honest with you. After Saturday night slideshow, you know what it is. And you're showing slides and everything go back in the boxes and in the dark. You can't see how you put them back. So
Well, what you're saying is we'll have a general view of some of the bombing shots you've got in your collection.
yeah, well, you can put that better than me. You were educated, I weren't, you see. Here we have Essex Road. There you can see the extent of the trouble, John. Talking about the bombing, as I've said before, and I'll emphasise this again, we're the most heaviest bombed town in England. We had the most warnings. We had the first crash warnings in the country. And so you could go on, you know, and caltrops. If you don't know what a caltrop is, they were little metal spikes, which whichever way they landed up was point upwards. So that would enter the fire service, the ambulances, but Lowestoft so far have been found to be the town what received the most of them, and they dated back to Napoleon times. They were laid down to cripple the horses.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they would do the same with the vehicles, weren't with the
Oh
tyres.
yeah, but the
Lots of
tyres.
devastation then in the Essex Road.
Oh yeah, my old mate and them lived there, Billy Thorpe, Harry Woodrow and all. These are the Morrison table shelters. We had to shove these in between the bombings, otherwise we'd have left them out, John. But they asked 2 adults, 2 children. The wire was on the outside for the very simple reason to stop the debris falling in on you. That's the idea,
the grill.
cage and the grill. The latter part of the war, some people with big families had another one placed on top of that one, had a double one.
The old radio's still there. Everybody had a radio down the ward. And
yeah,
listened to
listening.
Churchill.
But this gives you an idea of what a Morrison table shelter looked like. These are the old LNER sheds in the Harbour Master's Customs place there, John, wartime. A lot of people wouldn't know them like this because they're so vastly changed today. But if you go to the left of the picture, you can see the river, but you can't see on this slide, and the minesweepers. But
Well, move your old projector. Move your old magic lantern here. Can you see the river now, Jack?
yeah, you can just make out a
Yeah,
minesweeper's
yeah.
funnel there, just in that.
That's the customs house as we know it today.
Not
really,
today, and the Harbour Master's
Yeah.
officers. Now, you told me, or somebody, you did say something about this, somebody giving a talk on it, didn't you,
Well,
John?
I interviewed a gentleman who was there on the day, so should we just have a listen to him?
I waited a couple of minutes and I got out, and what a terrible sight met my eyes. There was the old swing bridge house, demolished, and in there were 2 of our dearest friends, both killed. These German bombers, appears, came in through the harbour mouth, dropped their bombs as they were, and climbed high into the sky and away. There wasn't any shots fired whatsoever. After a while I managed to get out of this place, and there were some railings with the side, I can remember it now, and there were 2 ladies' handbags hanging on the railings. There were no ladies, they had fell flat on the faces, and then they ran. But they were quite all right. Imagine my surprise when I turned the corner to go into the yard to take over the firefighters. The telegraph poles were leaning at a difficult angle. The walls had gone in, the roof was on fire. I called one of my men and said, "Get the hoses out, put on the standpipe and turn on the water." I then gave the order, "Water on, Jack." He turned the handle, nothing happened. The water mains had been burst with the bombs. I went up the yard then and saw this wall tottering. The only thing that could be done then was to find where all the men were. So they called a roll call and everybody was asked over the loudspeakers to clock off. They were clocking off the room, and then we could see how many were missing. In that raid there were 8 people killed. In front of them was one of our dear friends whose face was swollen to the size of a balloon. He had taken the full force of the blast, and 2 days later we could see seagulls circling around the roof of the buildings, and we couldn't make out why. So 2 of us went up, and these seagulls seemed to be feeding, and sure enough they were, on parts of the body of this poor man who was killed. They were tragic days.
Bomb number 2, John, you can see it on the left-hand corner here, look. Bomb number 2, so nearly hit the bridge, didn't it? Yes. Nearly. No bus coming over. Bomb number 3. Tragic part about this is the air raid shelter was under there, John. There was 2 or 3 people killed, and I think a gentleman got a medal for this, doing something here. But maybe that gentleman you talked to will help us out on it for information. And that's how the bridge used to look, and as we remembered it. Such a tragedy to have seen that gone. You know, I still wanted that one back. You can have a 14-lane bridge. I don't want it.
But then people killed at the underground shelter, Jack. So when we crossed the bridge, our new bridge, that little garden is still there, isn't it? I think. We should just cast a memory back to those horrible days.
Yeah, there's a lot of sadness and sad memories in the town. Look at that old Royal Hotel at the back there. Look, I put a bloody mosque up there now.
The greenhouse, you mean?
Well, I call it a mosque. You can call it what you like, but reminds me of a very sad day for Lowestoft. This is a German Dornier, and that's the same type what bombed Wallace, January the 13th, 1942, killing 71 people and injuring 117. This shot was taken in happier days. Where you see the archway over that shop there towards the right hand side, that was Boots the chemist. And in the background we can see a church where I had to go to Sunday school. That was the United Methodist. Today that's where Courts is. Now all that side of the road there, just beyond the entrance to the marina, was bombed in the Wallace raid. You know, he dropped 4 bombs on the shopping centre. And we have several shots, but we'll pick 2 or 3 out for the people. This is 1930s. There you can see Epworth's on the corner of the marina. That was completely destroyed. Many people remember Mr. Davis, the dentist up there. He was my dentist. He was tragically killed in that raid. The next door to that was a shoe shop. It's there now, but was bombed during the war. That's when Morlands took it over. They lost the big shop. So that's another shop he lost. And now where the ices were, that was old Galoni's ice cream shop. When he came to Lowestoft, he offered the kids all free ice cream when he opened up, so all the kids went up there and held out 2 hands and got 2 ices. But they were happier days. The big building Epworth's we were then looking at, this is what happened to it. Oh, that was a tragic raid, this, John, very tragic. The worst raid Lowestoft had. We've just celebrated the second, but that was the biggest in number of aircraft. But This was the worst for deaths, you know. Now we're standing on the site of Epworth's rubble. We're looking across the marina, and now you can see all those shops like 50 shilling tailors and all them what stood there. And then cross the road you'll see a building with 2 white windows, if you can point it out, John. And that's Millet's. That's Millet's today. That was Timothy White's in them days, where you used to get your toothbrushes, John. And you said you had about 500 in your cupboard. This again shows you the wreckage. That would be roughly, you see where that like curved in on that woodwork, like half moon shape, just towards the left hand side of the picture. Well, that was Boots the chemist. That was there for do you call it, above the shop. And then if we look slowly right up to the top left hand corner, you'll see the tar of St Margaret's Villa in the marina. They now call that St Margaret's House, by the way. This is what I was then talking about, the curved facade. That's a big word for me, John, facade, and I know where I picked that up out of the
almost
Beano,
the same as fascia, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well that's Boots the chemist. Now there is a lady who was actually a door away from this building when the bombs dropped, and I hope she's going to interview you.
Well, I had the pleasure of interviewing this 80-year-old lady, and we'll go over to her now, Jack. Miss Audrey Cushing of Alton Broad, who worked for Alderton's, the shoe shop.
Inclined to be snowing, you know, and not too good. And Mr. Alderton then was in the back of the shop with an apprentice girl, and he rushed out the back where we had an air raid shelter. And I went, the stairs at the front were shored up, you know, people had them done up, didn't they, the stairs, and I went under there with a customer. Well, it was a bit horrifying, but of course we weren't hurt, you know, we were just full of brick dust and rubble and one thing and another. And I think the bomb actually dropped next door where Mr. Morling, he'd already been bombed from his shop, and Mr. Morling and his sister, or girl who was in his shop, were killed, and they were thrown into our fitting room, and they didn't find their bodies till about Friday. I feel sure this was a Tuesday. And of course somebody came round and got us out, and you know, of course we'd lost coats and handbag and that thing, but we weren't hurt, any of us really. And I went home. We lived in, as I say, we lived in Denmark Road, and there was a wren outside, and she was about 6 foot tall. You can imagine me, I've never been more than 5 foot. And she gave me a coat to put on, so of course, and when I went in, she took me home in the car, and when I went in, of course my mother burst out laughing. They didn't know nothing about Bob. Well, they were so used to the crash warning going, you know, they didn't take any notice of it much, I don't suppose. Of course, I looked a bit funny with this long coat on, all covered with grey, one thing and another. But anyway, we went back the next day, and of course there was all true. And Bonsel's, the jewellers, they were in next to Boots, you know, on the other side. And funnily enough, they had moved from Pier Terrace, because they were really in Pier Terrace, because that was considered to be a danger part, you know, and they moved up there. And of course one of them, I think it was Mr. Bonsall, I think he was killed, you know, that day. And of course there was beautiful rings everywhere, you know, and jewellery and all over the place. And there was, well, it was tragic, but there was some funny parts as well. And they were laying out the bodies, you know, in the Odeon, you know, in the foyer of the Odeon. And there's a policeman there, and, you know, and we had a bit of a workman who was a bit of a wag, really. And he you know, he was looking, of course, there were all the naval personnel there and all those picking up these things. And of course, they really had, I suppose they got hold of a bit of this jewellery and stuff, you know, that's a bit valuable. And I know as a workman, he came up and he said, all he found was a prayer book, and that opened, a hymn book, and that opened there and said, must I go and empty-handed, you know, because that sort of struck us as so funny at the time. And another funny thing was that when the war first started, you know, of course we thought we were going to be bombed every half hour, didn't we? And Mr. Alderson, he was my boss, he bought a large bottle of brandy and a big packet of nuts and raisins, because we were made to think that we were going to have to stay in the shelter, you know, for hours and days on end, you know. We thought we were sort of never going down there and come there for hours. And of course, every time we went down with the siren went, because we had a little of this brandy and some of the nuts and raisins. And of course, when we finally were bombed in 1942, we had neither brandy nor raisins. We'd eaten them, drunk them all. Well, anything left.
This is the opposite side of the street now. That wasn't hit, but that received a lot of blast, John. There was a lot of damage done. By just looking at them pictures, you can see the damage. All them tiles up there, that used to be my job when I was doing the war, like clattering about on the roofs and knocking down ceilings and making the houses habitable for the people to live in them. The old Odeon now, and that's a shame to see that go, wasn't it? This is a very rare shot, John. This is the devastation. Had to be January the 13th, and it had to be. That's the battle-scarred Odeon, which they used as a mortuary for nearly a week, because they were trying to dig them people out for nearly a week. But you got to realise they had the arc lights out. Yeah. But as soon as the air raid went at night, them lights had to go off.
And then head of the rescue team would say, "Silence!"
Yeah.
Everybody would keep quiet in case there was a voice
calling out help or
help from the
moaning
rubble.
Sort of thing, yeah.
And on this day, this terrible day, just remind us how many people were killed on this corner, Jan.
There were 71 killed and 117 injured in this raid.
Yes.
All that white as snow. There was a snowstorm at the time. I can't even remember a warning going. I can't. Some people said it did, but I can't remember it going.
I was on Station Square on the day this was taken, and I've interviewed several people who were in the vicinity of this area on this particular day, and they've got some wonderful, wonderful stories to tell.
I mean, if the warning had gone, they'd have been down the shelters, wouldn't they? Another frightening scene, John. Very frightening, isn't it, to look at these things after 50 years. There you can see the audience has already stated it was a mortuary, but you cross over the other side there, and that little shop on the corner was Annet's Wool Shop. A lot of people remember it. The other big store was the Hills and Steels. I expect you remember Hills and Steels.
I do indeed.
And then it became the Universal Stores. Today it's the Home Stores. Now in that area, as we'll see, we put a little stone up there, but we'll jump on the next slide. There, look at that, isn't that lovely? I told you we'd have a look in the Odeon, then to bring back memories.
Every boy and every girl have walked up them steps to the 1 and 9s. Look.
Yeah, I walked up there with a girl many a time. I always went upstairs.
But it was in this foyer which they laid out the bodies, did they not?
That's right, in this foyer is where the mortuary was. That's why this had been put in, John. But while we're here, we'll have a look upstairs as well and go into the circle. There, look at that, eh? All the girls used to take up there, John, eh? Blimey, when I was coming from sea.
But that scene, Arab scene or whatever, on the screen, that used to be their standard picture. Can you remember the girls used to come down with all the sweet smelling...
Yeah, and all that old scent going about, pumping.
That's right.
Yeah, that old bloke going
right.
around with that, what was it, a pumper thing, didn't it?
That's right.
Pumping all that old puffy powder all over the place. Yeah, I remember that right well. The girls used to sit there, didn't you? You had the chocolates in your right hand pocket, and the pocket next to her had the hard boils in, didn't it? Well, Hills and Steels, now the British Home Stores. Where you see that pile of rubble, they built a little brick garden with flowers in, and on that wall they fixed the Battle of Britain plate on first, and then we went in with a stone for the Wallace raid and for everyone killed in the air raids. And I was proud of that, John, because our little society struggled hard to raise that money. We went in without an halfpenny, and we come out with profit, thanks to the Lowestoft people, and I must express this, for helping us by attending that slide show. There was 150 turned away from the marina that night, but we now have a stone on that wall commemorating all the people who lost their lives. This is the stone, John, which proudly bears my name. I'm proud of them doing that for me, because I didn't want my name on there, but that finished up on there, and you walk up and down the street and see your name, you get a little bit of pride.
Sure, you're very proud of
And
it, and rightly so.
and I thank my society for doing that.
We'll think of you every time we pass that, and look out for that as we pass
The reason I'm proud of this is it's more or less a stone to all those who lost their lives. You know, I'm trying to get a memorial museum going out for everyone.
Yeah.
But this stone is the beginning of it. Has to commemorate the people, because there's nothing in this town to commemorate the people who died here. And now we leave Wallace Raid with this final slide. I think these slides are a tribute to that raid. When we show these things, when you lived through the war, sadness hit you, because you remember your friends and people you knew being killed. But I hope these days are gone forever and finished forever. With the morale being low at times, John, everybody went for the Daddy Murray, especially the Forces boys, to see Jane. She was a kind of like uplifter for you. Used to look out for Jane, praying she'd never have a towel in front of her, of course, but you know, in them days the censors were a bit stricter than they are today. These are the girls in Long Row, or known as Wellington Cottages today, but to me it's always Long Row. They're making their camouflage nets to drape over tanks and Spitfires in fields and guns. You know, there weren't any fishing in the town, so these girls were handy making nets, and there they are outside in the sunshine, giving us a smile there, look. Here's the old air raid warden telling that lady put that light out. See, she got a blackout curtains up right, and there's a chink of light all the way round. Now, from an aircraft, that looked like a town lit up there. Well, you know, when you lit a fag up, you had to go in the shop doorway, didn't you? Cover up the match light. This is the original St Margaret's Plain, St Margaret's School, I should say, on St Margaret's Plain. And that's where St John's Ambulance were stationed, and above them, in them top rooms, they had the Air Training Cadets Corps, you know, who trained for the Air Force. Civil Defence Corps, they done sterling work in the town when the bombs had dropped. Them boys were there on the spot, digging them out, digging the bodies and that out, and helping people out, and going around putting incendiary bombs out. The second man at the back from the left is Ruth Ford's father. That's Billy Eade. I used to work with Bill. He'd be the Civil Defence again on the ambulances and that. That little house at the back there, that's where I was born. Not the bay windowed house. That's the old solicitor's office, Bailey and Crome. So this would be roughly outside Telecom Social Club today.
You told me your solicitor was a Freeman out in Willis.
Well, he was. He still is. I can't afford a solicitor, John. Timothy White used to be, but I got rid of him. Here we have the Duke of Kent inspecting the local constabulary. God, where did I get that word from, John? Constabulary. There's Major Humphreys behind him. The gentleman in the cap, or what do you call him, trilby, is Mr. Nunny, the town clerk. But the Duke of Kent, you know, he got killed himself in later months when he got his plane crashed. Here we have Sir Admiral Dudley North inspecting the youth movement in the town. As you know, we got the Brownies there, the Scouts, the Boys Brigade. Everybody in this town worked as a family. Everybody pulled together. The youth, the young and the old, all pulled together. And that's helped to get through the war years. They were a fine bunch of girls, John. They were the girls' training corps. They were all local girls. They used to,
They look all right.
when we were in the naval cadets, they used to come up to our dances and that sort of thing. And when we competed against the army cadets and the air force cadets, because we were in the naval cadets, you know, we used to have them round.
Nearly out over our old swing bridge.
Bridge, yeah, lovely lot of girls they were. These were the Lowestoft Naval Cadets, of which I was a member, John, for about 3.5 years. As Lieutenant Albrook there used to work on the railway. He had that little bungalow up on the railway side. And remember Denmark Road? That's where he used to live. And his son Ronnie Albrook, he turned out to be a policeman and Medler. You can see the names on there: Coleman, Medler, Bowler, Waller. They're all. These are the Army Cadets. They started off in Lowestoft, John, as a Scottish regiment. They wore kilts, you know, when they first started off.
I used to be in that. Then we used to run for the Home Guard.
Yeah.
Be runners, you know, doing the raids and things.
Yeah, like a messenger boy. Yeah, yeah. This is the May Road raid. As you can see, there's those houses it there, John. People killed there as well. Go to the top end of this road, you've got Love Road, in case anybody don't know where we are, but the junior school would be at the bottom of this road, and at the top would be Love Road. Now we're back to the May Road raid, and here you can see how the people's furniture was loaded on lorries and taken to different stores round the town. You can see Pat Roman Hill School right at the bottom of the picture there, but these scenes were common during the war. We got used to them. Ipswich Road raid. This is at the back of the big house, Adrian Lodge. There's a little opening run through here now into Oxford Road, and this is the new house was built on that corner. This was just outside my back gate. You go down Christchurch School and you come to the central school. This was the central school. Full of soldiers at the time. You can see some at the left hand corner of the picture. There was several soldiers killed in there. But that's the old central school down here in Fishery School. But us local people have never called it Heron Fishery School. That's always Christchurch School. Still on the central school. I wonder what the old pupils must think when they look at this and realise what happened to their school, because although I never hardly went to school as a boy, I was proud of the school what I went to. I mean, I went to Roman Hill Senior Boys School, and I'm proud of that fact to have gone there. This is a dreadful scene. It's at the rear of Seagull Street and Wollaston Road. You can see Wollaston Road on the right, but in the centre you can see what looked like a big white board. That's the air raid shelter what received a direct hit. Now there was a young Air Force lad on his first leave, and he went down there with his mum and dad, and they're all buried together in Lowestoft Cemetery in a war grave, which is very unusual to see the mother and father in with the son in the war grave. But they are. The little cottage you can see right at the back there, with the white windows one above the other, and then there's like a little porch. Like a little porch, that is, yeah. That was known as Art Awards cottages. Art Awards, yeah. Art Awards, I don't know, maybe something happened, what happened, and they got it built Art Awards, but that's the name of the cottage. Waveney Drive, opposite Bolton and Paul. As you can see, the bomb damage there. Go round to the back into Waveney Crescent, which we will do, and you'll see far worse than this.
Oh dear, my old hometown, my old street, Waveney Crescent.
Waveney Crescent it is, and at the minute we'll show you an air raid shelter which was at the back in Anderson, but this is Waveney Crescent. You can see all the furniture outside, look, all salvaged out of the bombing, and then they were taken on horse and carts or lorries and put into one of the stores in the town till them people got rehoused.
I bought, in 1956, I bought my first house there for £1,100.
Yeah, I quite believe that, John. First house over the old Bristol Blemming. Many people remember this coming over the town. That didn't give any signal. That should have fired a green flare as it come in over the town, but it didn't. And the tragic part about it was the Lorna Doone, the old paddle steamer belonging to the patrol service, was coming through the bridge, and he opened up his gun and shot this plane down, but they were all British on it, and the plane crashed on Bordley's Field at Alton Broad. This is the old Lorna Doone, the paddle sweeper which the Navy took over in happier days. You can see that, John. She ain't got any guns on there and everybody's enjoying a day out sort of thing, but all these things happen in wartime.
And she's the one who unfortunately shot the Blenheim down.
Yeah, that's the one, Lorna Doone.
Well, that's my old parish church, Papefield Church, Jack, in unhappier times.
Yeah, very unhappy, John. They dropped incendiaries on there, and that was all out, all that thatch, and all these planes were coming in. But as luck had it, with the grace of God, fog come down.
Yes, I remember that night.
Yeah, that night fog come down, and that prevented it. But they said that Pakefield had been mistaken for somewhere else, like old Lord O'Hore when he come on. He said places were bombed on the east coast last night, including Random. He'd only picked up and heard that the places had been bombed at random.
Germany calling, Germany calling. I had an aunt who wasn't quite the thing, and she said, listen to Lord O'Hore, she said, well, let's stop using our electricity. She thought she was using the German electricity while she was listening to him. What have we got next, Jeff?
There you can see the dampening down of the thatch, and lady come across there. Was supposed to see if she could be of any help. They're taking all the thatch off there. You can see the old boy at the back there pulling the thatch. And she finished up a wreck, but after the war the Pakefield people got together and rebuilt it, John, didn't they?
Certainly.
Yeah, John, some of your Pakefield church, look. One of the last scenes of it. And then after the war the people got together and Pakefield Church rose again. This is a Wings for Victory week. You know we had Navy for Victory week, didn't we? Spitfire week, Army week and all the other weeks. But you know this is Wings for Victory week because you've got an Air Commodore standing on the platform. Major Humphrey behind him. And these are the boys from the patrol service marching past. All these parades were put on to boost morale in the town.
Marine Parade, have you not?
Yeah, up the middle drive as I call it. This is the 12th of May 1943, which we've just commemorated the worst, not the worst raid, but the second worst raid of the war. This is the morning raid when one lone Fokker Wolf come in. I've got to be careful how I pronounce that, innit? When lone Fokker Wolf come in, dropped a bomb on Bellevue Park. The bomb bounced and went right down the avenue and landed on two houses and killed the people in those houses. Now, that night when the big raid came on, 24 Fokker Wolves flying around the town machine gunning and dropping bombs. When the Royal Observer Corps tried to get through to warn the town with the crash warnings and that, what they didn't know was during this raid all the electric cables had been severed, so they couldn't warn the town. So you had all these planes over the town, only 50 feet high, machine gunning and bombing, and that's what caused the damage. Nobody had time to shelter. That's when the Jubilee got hit. Before we move to the big raid, we can show you the Royal Avenue again. But look what's been dug out there in complete order, look. A Morrison table shelter, dead centre, see it left on top there, look. But now this is a different story, and I shouldn't go that far ahead, but my granny, aunt and two cousins were killed in a Morrison table shelter up St Leonard's Road, because the bomb come through the house and hit the Morrison table shelter. As you know, my cousin was very reluctant to talk to you about it, wasn't she? Now here we have a nice picture of the Jubilee stores. During the war we called it the Jubilee Stores raid. It's only after the war it's called the Fokker Wolf raid. But That was full of sailors, soldiers and civilians having a nice quiet drink, and as you know, they couldn't sound the air raid warning. And that
Because
received
of
a
the
direct cut cable. Yeah, you couldn't get no siren or crash warning, nothing through. Now, this raid, as I said, 24 over the town, but there was more than 24 planes. Some went to the north, 2 or 3 went to the south. That's when Kesslin got bombed at Blacksmith Corner. So you know how widespread the damage was. I hope to show you the damage now, John, in the next few slides of the different roads what were hit.
Have we got a shot now, Jack, of the Jubilee after the Focke-Wulfs had done their thing?
I certainly have, John. There you are, what you asked for, John, a picture of the Jubilee. Look, 33 people killed in this raid. I couldn't tell you how many killed in the pub for the very simple reason army personnel and people from outside the town. We never registered in the Lowestoft civilian dead, you see, and I got the Lowestoft civilian dead. But people who was like the servicemen, you would have to write to the War Graves Commission.
Just remind people where this was. It was the north end of the town where the Indian restaurant is now. Where
Yeah, that's called Seater's.
Seater's restaurant.
Yeah, opposite the old East Dome, but that was the Royal Falcon, but the name had been changed again, so I'm a bit lost. But it's opposite the Green from Arnold House down, you know, opposite the... Is it the Mobile Garage there today? Some name like that, isn't it? This is the Jubilee again, sifting out the rubble, finding rings, watches and insurance books and that sort of thing, John, you know, club books. And that's Camden Street just running down there in the background, because that was on the corner of Camden Street.
What, the Navy boys were never far away, were they? Being near the nest?
They were called out from the nest, and some of the army was called out as well. You know, Watson's garage at that time was full of army. They had a mechanised unit there. But
I've got an interview with a gentleman who was doing this particular job that night. We'll talk to him now, Jack.
Yeah, right. Leave it all to you, John.
Mr. Fred Rushmere, then 21 years of age, now living in Normanston Drive, Lowestoft.
I was on leave from the Navy, in the Navy, that night, and I was in the pub next near the town hall. You know, that one on the corner. What's the name of that pub?
Anchor, was it?
Anchor or something. And I heard that bomb drop. You know, it shook up the place where I was in, and I rushed up there and I see what it was. You know, that was a Jubilee store. So I dashed home and got my overalls on. And when I got up there, they were pulling the bodies out, you see. Well, all I done was just put them on the lorry. That's all I done. Helped to put them on the lorries. That is about it, you see. That's all it was to me.
What about Raglan Street?
Oh, Raglan Street, yeah, when I finished, then I went down Raglan Street and an old girl in her house, well, we pulled her out and she never had no head on. And that,
we're still on the Focke-Wulf raid, John. We will be for the next few slides. This is the High Street opposite the Jubilee. That's why there's that big gap there today where we had our little church service the other night. But this was old Lowestoft. Them houses were really old. Well, you can see by them that they were old. Some of them going back to the 15th, 16th century. But they're the army. You can see the army there. And as I said, Watson's garage was full of them. This is after the war year sort of thing, John. You can see where the Jubilee was, all that grass. And then you can see the state of the garage, what happened to that. Now, old Jack Cleveland parked his car in there year after year, and when they pulled that down, there was 6 big petrol wells full of petrol. He said if he'd have known he'd had the draw bucket out.
Old Jack would have done. He would have done, bless his heart.
Now this is Osborne Street. A bomb went through Arnold House, come right through the roof, John, and hit them buildings in Osborne Street. You know, you got to realise these raiders were only 50 feet up, That's why these bombs were bouncing like they did up the park, you see. They were so low, instead of the bomb hitting with the nose, they were more or less hitting with the sides, then like ricocheting, and then, you know.
The old Ford 8 survived. Look, Ford 8, £110 new, available in any colour long as it was black.
Yeah, well, you know all about these air cars. If you said that's a drifter, trawler or coaster there, I'd have known, wouldn't I? We're still showing you the damage done by this here Fokker Wolf Ride, and this is Milton Road, John. So for the people who are living in Milton Road, that gives them an idea of what happened down there street or road during the war with us doing this, don't it? Now we come to Alexander Road, on the corner of junction of Regent Road and Alexander Road. So you know where you are, don't you, when I say that? But there you can see the bomb damage again, all done by this here Fokker Wolf Raid. Norfolk Street, that didn't miss the bombs. There you can see all the damage there. You know where Norfolk Street is, don't you, John? Off Rotterdam Road area. Still in Norfolk Street. There you are, some of the damage. You can realise what these bombs done in the town, can't you? The lady, don't know she got a dog with her. I know when I feel queer I have a Bob Martin's powder. They have a strange effect on me. And North Parade, John, we went up here the other week to look at all this lot, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah, we went and looked
That's where
at
the
it.
bomb went right through the gable end.
Went right through the house, right out the other end of the roof, hit a lawn, bounced onto a house in the corner of Lyndhurst and Corton Road, which we'll show you. But this is number 1. This is picture number 2, showing you where the bomb hit. You can see the patch there, can't you see? They were so low the bombs bounced, and right in that right hand corner you can see all the debris of that big house. And number 4 Corton Road disappeared, but that's on the corner of Lyndhurst Road as well, you see. But these bombs, you know, they weren't dropped at a height. They were dropped, you get 50 feet, ain't far above your head, is it? This is picture number 3, John, as a result of it, look. There you can see where the bomb hit the grass, bounced, and hit the house, and the little one alongside on it. Wild Score School, which got hit as well, look. I always dreamed that'd happen to my school like yours, John, because I know you're like me, you didn't like school. But there you are, that's Wild Score School. They evacuated during the war, so there weren't no children in it. This is the north end of Raglan Street. You know Raglan Street go right down to Bevan Street on it. This is the top end, John, when it got bombed. Go up there today, there's new houses there, but we're still on the Fokker Wolf Raid, you know.
And then Fokkers got everywhere, didn't they? Then?
Yeah, certainly did, boy. This Ipswich Road again, John, but this was nothing to do with the Bartman. When the Bartman house, what I show you on the other slides, were much earlier. That'd be about 1941. This is the Fokker Wolf Raid, 1943. Young girl of 14 killed there.
Well, even at Low Kesselin did escape the Fokkers.
No, as that lone Fokker what left the crowd come here and dropped a bomb on this building, you see. That's Blacksmith's Corner, I think somebody said.
And I think the blacksmith got killed actually, didn't he?
Yeah, if that's the same area I'm lost at Kesselin, you know, that's like going to India for me when I go to Kesselin. That's way out of my territory there. This is the Victoria Road Raid, John. There's a tragic story behind all this. The shipyard workers used to have a crash warning, a bell go to warn them that a raid was imminent.
Is it what we call the cuckoo?
That's got to come into it. That weren't called a cuckoo then.
No.
But what happened, people got killed while they were down in the shelter safe. Now, they all threatened, all the shipyard workers threatened to go on strike unless the public had a crash warning. The next day, or the day after, we had the cuckoo warning. We were the first town to have it. It sounded like a cuckoo. When it sounded, that cuckoo, cuckoo, and you knew then danger was imminent and you got down the shelter. But if it hadn't been for the shipyard workers saying, right, we're going on strike, we might not even have had a cuckoo warning. Now we come to the coastal forces, the MTBs. They used to go out and fight the E-boats who was trying to attack the convoys. I think you've just done a tape on these, haven't you, John?
Their reunion, perhaps I can show you a few footage of that.
Yeah, but I'd like you to put a few in, but I'll just get rid of one or two of these air slides I've got, and then we'll go over to your video. Yeah, John, the lads from the coastal services, look at them, look. There was about 77,000 sailors here during the war, you know, built it to the Lowestoft. This is all in the Hampton Dock. I used to love it. I was working at London Drapery when, beginning the war years. And I used to get up in their high roof, and they had a false window there you could take out, and you used to look right over the Hampton Dock, and you could see all these MTBs. And when they used to start up, the whole town shook.
Well, I think Lowestoft have got a special awareness of the Coastal Command Forces and, of course, the
Patrol service,
yeah.
Yeah, they were two grand lots of lads, but they couldn't have done without one another. Here we have an MTB been in battle with an E-boat, John. Look, all the bows shot away, so they had to be towed in stern first, because otherwise they'd have sunk it, wouldn't they? So they salvaged what they could of it. They used to go up to Leo Robertson's and Fletcher's yard to be repaired. And there you can see some of the lads standing aft on the deck. Maybe one or two of them been killed there. But the MTB's done such good work, especially for the convoys off there. There was one come in and all the crew lay dead on the deck during the war. Yeah, went through the bridge. Wounded sailor staring it, went right through the bridge with the dead laying on the deck. The history of Lowestoft can't be told unless we mention the patrol service. As you know, the Sparrow's Nest became the base for the Royal Naval Patrol Service. Didn't start off as HMS Europa though, started off as Pembroke X, and then that was changed to HMS Europa.
These are typical. Are they trawlers which have been converted?
Minesweepers, yeah.
Yeah.
All these old, a lot of the trawlers were converted, and the fishermen went, but there was so much of a loss of life that they had to conscript, people into them. When you went up to Ganges and them places, they put the patrol service up and you volunteered for them. Now, when Jim Callaghan, the Prime Minister, volunteered, he thought patrol service was fast boats, but he finished up on these minesweepers. This is their badge. They were immensely proud of this badge, John. After 6 months minesweeping, they wore this little silver badge on the sleeve of the tunic, you know.
You still see them about the town, don't you?
Yeah, and when
when
the boys come down on the Royal Naval Patrol Service reunion, the silver badge is there for all to see.
And they wear them with pride.
Much pride. Now we come to the St Luke's. This is where the Royal Naval Patrol Service engineers and stokers trained. Under them cellars they had big ship's engines, John. I don't know if you knew that during the war years. And this is where they trained the boys for the engineering and the stoking department, as we'd call it.
Of course, this is now St Mary's, isn't it?
Yeah, this was pulled down just in the 50s, and that's used as the convent school. Now that's all gone, brick by brick. They pulled that down. These are the barrow boys. They used to go down the nestway to the bottom of the gates. The sailors would come out and sling your kit bags on, away you'd go, and that used to be sixpence south side of the bridge and threepence the north side. Give it old projector kit, see if you can get that lettering clearly there. Look, that word Europa. Hey, that's the way to spell Europa. Look, he went to the same school I did, Europa. And then if you go more to the Transport Delight, no, go the other way, John. Yeah, here's another Europa. Look,
yeah,
not Europa, EUR, it's EROAPA, Europa. So they could be all Roman Hill boys, couldn't they? Here we have the Barrow boys again, John. Look, you see the old salute there. Tragic case happened down here. One of the little old boys came from Galston, down for the day to see his gran. He got a barra, came and joined the barra boys, and of course enemy aircraft come over, dropped a bomb. He had a bit of shrapnel go right across his stomach,
Yeah, so
and died in hospital.
I was a barra boy to get threepence or something, pushing a barra of kit bags from the station to the Sparrow's Nest.
Yeah, you got done, you know. I went right up to Florence Road and the sailor on the head top him, so I went home and chopped the barra up. Old man used to boil his shrimps up out of that. I never went no more. Some of the nappy girls at the Nest used to look after the sailors, you know, a cup of tea, cakes, or wads as we used to call them. And there you see some of the nappy girls. They're Lowestoft girls, John. One of the popular places during the war years, John, when they used to have the shows on there, the Palace Cooties. They were only little old girls from the Dolly School of Dancing. And then the sailors, the army, the wrens, they all used to go on there and give turns, you know, during the...
Yeah, and when I used to go at the Palace a lot, and then halfway through a good film, a good old cowboy film, the sign would come up on the screen, the sirens are sounding, the show will continue. But if you wish to leave the theatre, do so. Now, here we go. Here, Jack.
Well, this is a typical Lowestoft Ma, as they boys used to call them Ma's, didn't they, you know, short for Mum Ma. And that's Mrs. Hart with some of the sailors. She had over 1,000...
Mrs. Hart been on the left?
On the left, yeah. She had 1,000 of them billeted with
Did
her.
she really?
1,000 boys it was.
Yeah. Not all together, of course.
No. You want the bloody Royal Hotel in the Victoria for that, wouldn't you?
And the lady in the middle.
The lady in the Mrs. Barnard, I used to sail with her husband, and the little boy in front is Bob Hart.
Who become the policeman?
No, he works at Birdseye Supervisor.
Oh,
there.
yes, that Bob Hart.
And the other little girl on the right of the picture is Hilda Barnard. Mrs. Barnard's daughter there, but that's typical Lowestoft landlady. This is the Italian plane which flew up the coast and then crash landed at Corton. And when an old farmer labourer come along, the old pilot say, "What part of Germany am I in?" So he got a bit lost, but they were Italian planes what raided the co-op, you know, up Waveney Drive.
Right now looking for Capaldi's.
Could have been out of the ice cream, yeah, very likely. Now we're back to a few more bombing series. We'll split these up, John, you understand, otherwise people would get bored with all bombing, wouldn't they? So we've split them up. Yeah. This is Till Road. The big building is the Arts of Oak, and the little shops on the corner there were pulled down, and there's a little chapel there today. This is more or less on the corner of Summer Road and Till Road, John. If you look right to the extreme left of the picture, that's that old off-licence shop what stood there for years, didn't it? And where this rubble is today is the little spastic centre in Till Road, so you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Still in Till Road, Summer Road area, John. There they are, bringing some poor person dead out there on that stretcher. All that white of snow, like the Wallers raid, you know. But scenes like this, as I said, we don't want to see these no more, John. Not in our children and grandchildren's lifetime anyway. This is Raglan Street, and where you see the white gable end over there, that's Jacob Street. What's there today is Jacob's Court. And I'll show you that slide next, John, because then you can compare the difference between the old Lowestoft and the modern Lowestoft. As we see it today, there's my old mate, Wally Holden. Look, you knew Wally, didn't you?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, he's on his way up there. I reckon he'd been looking for bits of shrapnel, don't you? Pick anything up, he will. Now we come to Surrey Street. The house you see here was a beautiful house called Tudor House. And that was a lovely old building. But this today is all telecom along there. This is when you walk along Surrey Street to Clapham Road. And opposite Surrey Street you've got the exhaust centre. Here's that beautiful house, John, called Tudor Lodge.
Oh, what a waste, what a lovely, elegant building.
Yeah,
what a
well,
waste.
thousands of properties like this was it, castles, weren't they?
Will everybody recognise this famous corner?
Yeah, that was the Imperial Hotel, John. It's quite a bit of history, but we'll keep things short. You can see Bevan Street just on the right of the
right-hand
picture.
side, yes.
Now, all this today is Kentucky Fried Walker Regas opposite the railway station. But here you see it, and all that back up was it first, and then on another later raid, a year or two later, the toilets got hit, and that's when we show you the first bombing first. This is the back end of the hotel, John, when it got hit, and then a year or two later, I think it was a year later, then the other end got hit, so it really got bombed twice,
The
you see.
old-fashioned fire engine.
Oh, the old firemen, they were round about. We'll show some of them later on, the old firemen.
Well, this was the day, the tragic day, the underground toilets were hit. Let's meet Mr. Harry James, who was there.
And about 9 o'clock, 9:30, I went down to the toilet, and that was when it all sort of happened. And there was I went down the toilet, and I don't know if you remember that toilet, but you go in and there's about 2 steps, and then you turned left down, and you went down about 9 steps. Well, I was lucky. I went straight across to the toilet from the steps, and I looked and to the right and saw 2 soldiers down there. They were talking to the right of me in the corner, and then a young naval chap came down, and he said that he'd been standing on the station, and that he'd just come off leave from Grimsby, and he said that Jerry's overhead. Well, the next thing, the bomb dropped, and it was like someone with a big sandblaster, for a flash of a second, as though that got you up against the wall. And then, of course, when I did come round, I really thought that I was trapped underneath the old extension, because I could hear water, and it was like big rocks that was clamping me down. And I was fortunate to be been thrown to the bottom of the steps, and the sailor, he was thrown across me into a kind of a ball, and I was feeling around with my hand, and I found his hand and had a glove on it. And we held on to each other until he was released. But you keep, according to the doctors afterwards, why you keep sort of fainting away and coming back again, is because of the pressure of the blood, the pressure on your arteries and that. And anyhow, that's what I kept doing. And when I came round again, I could feel water coming up my left leg, because this one was at the back. I mean, it was all smashed up. But the soldiers were unlucky, because they were knocked at the bottom of there was 2 doors, like 2 toilets, and they were knocked there. And the water came up, and of course you could hear, well, I heard, you could hear them guggling with the water, and they drowned, you see. And then the water came, you could feel the water coming up quite high, and then, which seemed like eternity, we were laying on our backs, or I was, and you could see little chinks in the skylight. And then I saw a policeman come, and he yelled down if there's anyone down, and of course you yell up, and then all of a sudden he yelled down and said that he would get us out, we would be got out. He'd got to go away, and of course some more bombs dropped, so that it seemed as though everything was being packed in on you. But the water, as I said, that was the terrifying thing, because you were pinned down, and it was like creeping paralysis coming up your legs. But anyhow, the Navy were there, and naval doctor, they managed to get a hole through to my neck, and also the sailor had his neck over my shoulder, like, and he was injected, and I was injected, and then gradually they lifted the top lot off, so they come up to your sort of neck, so you could see, and that was great. And I saw that Charlie Jacobs, I think, with the white helmet on, He was there, and the naval officer, and there was a lot of Navy chaps. They were doing a magnificent job. And we learnt later that the equipment they had been bombed the same night next door to the old Austin Wales place in Clapham Road. So they really, literally never had nothing at all. And the big blocks of concrete they were getting off, they were just hand getting them off like. Well, they carried on, and they got the naval boy off first because he was across me, you see. And the water just seemed as though it was red paint. Anyhow, they got the boy off, and he died in hospital the next morning at 2 o'clock. He was very badly injured. And I remember the water coming up very fast then, and it came up to underneath my shoulders, and the chap, well, I suppose there was a naval officer, he said, well, I'm afraid we've got to pull you out. He said, because we'd never get you out. So well, at that particular time, I didn't care if they left a couple of my legs behind, you know, because you were so panicking because the water was very frightening. And so there's 4 or 5 got round my body, and they lifted all the big stuff off, and lots of naval chaps were getting down, and they got their arms right round me, and they were scrapping round the bits and pieces all round my body. And at the end, there was like a big sort of suction, and I came out, and and then of course they laid me on stretcher on the island, and the doctor, this naval doctor, came in and injected me. And I always remember a sailor saying to me, he said, I can't light it, son. He said, he pushed his cigarette in my mouth. He said, but chew it, he said, because Jerry's overhead, you know.
This is how the Roman Catholic Church looked pre-war, John. Now, during the war, that church stood to everything. Everything round there was gone.
Like St Paul's Cathedral.
That's correct. Completely blasted. And the church, that's the Lady of the Star in Gordon Road, and that stood up to it, and we'll show you how she looked during the war years. That was the point I was trying to make, John. It surprised you, this.
Yes, it
surprised you. This is the damage all round the windows are boarded up and everything, and that church is still there to tell the story. You know, the technical school next door was bombed, the library was bombed, all round it completely, you know, devastated. And the church is still there. There we have the postman, John. I wouldn't have wanted their job, not taking the letters round during the war years. Your son is presumed killed, or your son is presumed missing, and all this sort of thing, and telegrams telling them the sons was dead and all this. But the postman done the jobs, and you got to pay tribute to everybody in the town. Back to Stanley Street. This has got a very sad memory for me. I remember a great friend of ours dying, and the coffin was laid out in the front room, and when these bombs dropped, the blast blew the coffin right through the window, and the old lady laid out in the middle of the street. Now, you know, that's sadness. Now we're coming on to one or two of the unexploded bombs. There's a lot of them in Lowestoft, you know. They dropped the whole stick up the high street, but this just show you the bomb disposal personnel getting the bomb out of there, and then they used to get the detonator out and steam them out with a steam hose, or remove the detonators, John. Here we have the Eagle Tavern in Tawning Street, John. This is where well, it was a live bomb, you know. When it came down, it knocked that eagle off, or one of them eagles, so I'm told, and went right in the old lady's house opposite, right under her front room floorboards. And we'll show you the bomb and the people who got out shortly. This is the bomb they removed from the lady's front room. She's still alive. In fact, she was in contact with me about 3 years ago, and at the time she was living up Maidstone Road. But you imagine having this on your front board. She was a bit annoyed because she couldn't go back in the house. But there you are, she'd have gone back in with that in there. Anything could have happened. Here we have the bomb itself with the bomb disposal crew who got it out there. I got a faint recollection that that lady's name was Mrs. Emerson. I might be wrong. And the house in the background is 74 or 75, but you know, 2 or 3 year back, dates and figures go from your mind. This was known as the Stradbrook Road bomb. I think it was found by near a bungalow up there, and there's the fire service standing beside the bomb. I don't think they dug it out. They might have done, but they used to have the bomb disposal squads for that. Here we have taken the bombs away. As you know, they had all red mudguards to denote that they were bomb disposal. They used to steam these bombs out. Sometimes they'd take the detonators and everything out as well, you know, without steaming them, but very, very dangerous job.
Were they volunteers?
Well, in the army you could volunteer for. I nearly volunteered for that, but I volunteered for the Suffolk Regiment and finished out in the Far East, you know, but sometimes I don't know when you volunteer for work like this. The army having blown up the middle of the Claremont Pier, put a emergency bridge across, and that is like a Bailey bridge, you see, John. And that was the way you could go the full length of the pier during the war years. But after the war, people argued with me that the army came and blew it up. But I can show you a slide of that bridge collapsed in the heavy seas of Kirkley.
Bet you can't.
But I can. I'll get it now. Here, John, for all your money, you owe me 2 bob for this, look. That's the old Claremont Pier. Now, a chap stopped me yesterday and he said the army blew it up. Now, I wished he was here today, because this would prove to him what really happened to that bridge.
And he could have paid you the 2 bob.
And he could, yeah, I know you're that tight. This was taken outside the hospital in Alexander Road. You can see all the old sandbags there, look, all round the building to protect it. Now, I know Ollie Balls is on there, Dick Sexton, chap Larkin, I think his name was, Sid Wright, and that's about all I can think of at the moment. I know Jack Platford was in that brigade, but I don't think he's on this fire engine. But it gives the people a rough idea. That was AFS, you know, Auxiliary Fire Service. Then later on that was changed to National Fire Service, wasn't it? But to us they'll still be firemen, won't they? Regardless of the big names they put up for them. There you are, John, there's the old fire engines. Look at that. Still, I love them, don't you, like that?
Indeed, yeah.
When we were kids, you used to run behind them, didn't you? The old firemen had the old brass helmets on.
Bells
and
ringing.
Charge Struth.
This is in St Peter Street.
Peter Street, there's the fire house there. Sparrow's building is running up at the back of the fire engine, and that big house, that could be old Tom Bishop's house.
You remember that?
We have the ladies who done sterling work, John, the Women's Voluntary Service. After the war, they called it Women's Royal Voluntary Service, didn't they?
Always produced a cup of tea, even right in the middle of the bombing, didn't they?
Yeah, and that lady in the middle is Jeannie Mann.
She was a mayor of Lowestoft, wasn't she?
Well, she was
alderman, wasn't she?
Alderman, and
right.
she was one of the women aldermen, and you got the Jeannie Mann Court, haven't you?
That's right.
Here we have another batch of the WVS. That lady on there has got cakes and stuff like that in there, you know. And this is in St Margaret's Institute, if you want to know where we are.
That looked like a converted Wool's ice cream barra, don't it?
Yeah, well, there's I know Kay's had one like that. What hit me and put me in hospital, like a wooden box on a freewheeler. Another batch of the Civil Defence, John. They done sterling work in the town, as we've already said, but if anybody know any people on here, if they could let me and John know.
Yes, it's nice to know the names, isn't it?
Yeah. Might be somebody who asked something. Now, this is the heavy AK stuff, the anti-aircraft guns, John. They had these up on St Margaret's Churchfields and Walmer Road. And by Christ, when they used to open up, the whole town used to vibrate.
Right, what's this, Jack?
Well, that's a bloke got a big torch and he's looking for an aeroplane. Now that's a searchlight, John. They accompanied them big AK guns, but the Germans had the trick of diving down that beam of light, machine gunning, so he'd put that light out and injure them people round about. These are the Buffer guns, John. They had several of these round the town. They had one in the Lowestoft Yacht Club, and they had one on top of Price's roof.
Yes, I remember. Then there's to practice. An aircraft used to fly up the coast, didn't you, with a
Drogue behind
with
it,
the drogue
ton of
behind it, they were
drogue,
trying to
yeah.
get
Then
that,
they
yeah.
used to bang away at that. Now we come to the balloon barrage. As you know, after the Fokker Wolf raid, about a day afterwards, they had them over the town, but nearly all the ships had them.
Yeah, the smaller ones.
All
didn't
the
they?
lot
Small ones.
minesweepers and that, and had them going up and down with, but over the town there was nothing.
This was to stop the
Yeah, 43, yeah.
the low wave bombers
Bomber,
coming in
yeah.
at 50 feet.
Well,
yeah.
what happened, they kept these balloons low with all cables hanging down
Yeah.
steel so they'd catch up in the propellers or rip the wings
right.
off.
And I think you've got some shots of them.
Yeah, I've got some shots to show you. You're darker. Now here we have the harbour scene, John. You can see they make that girl's billets. There's one there, look, just on the right hand corner here. That's in the yacht club. Now you can see the balloon barrages, see? Now, there's a little story behind here what Jock Cheek told me. He said his mate went in and out of Lowestoft all the war years with one of them up.
Yeah.
And when the war finished, they lowered the balloon and the ship sunk.
Well, lovely St John's Church. It's my parish church, that is, Jack.
Yeah, that's where I was christened, John. My mother being a Kirkley woman. I went there, they threw water over me, and I never went back no more.
Now, this was taken just before the war, wasn't
Just before the war, yes, yeah. Now, what we're going to show you is that the army came along and said, oh, well, that's a landmark for the enemy. We'll camouflage it.
Well, this is all wrapped up then, Jack.
Yeah, what the army done, they put a big scaffolding right the whole length of the spire, put all this canvas essing round.
Yeah.
Now, the good old easterly winds come and whoosh,
Yes, of course.
waggle that lot.
Yeah.
The army, not to be outdone, they put all chicken wire round. Then the canvas on top of the chicken wire. And again,
Yeah.
the old easterly winds. And nearly all that canvas and chicken wire finished up on the chimney pots up Kirkley.
Although it was the beginning of the end for Lowestoft at war, the Germans had another card up their sleeve, the V1 flying bomb. And the town certainly had its share of those.
John, look, a buzz bomb or doodle bug in flight. As soon as that engine cut out, that used to drop. Bang.
That's right, the yellow flame at the back.
That's right, it used to...
It sounded like a motorbike, didn't
Motorbike engine, that's right, doodling along.
This is at Carlton, Jack?
Carnival, yeah, Rose's Lane, a little cottage there, got destroyed, look. So you can see the force of a buzz bomb, can't
Oh,
you?
yes, they were frightening
Hey.
things. Frightening things.
All blasted out, John, that's the old farm. Carlton Colvin, that's an old barn, look. And that's what a doodle bug blasted done to it. Maincroft Towers, Alton Broad, John. A doodle bug didn't hit this building, it hit a clump of trees, and this is the blast damage. This was the 19th of the 10th, 44, when I checked up on a list for the date.
Now, I've got a little surprise for you. How would you like to see part of the bomb which hit the building?
Lovely, but I'll just show you this southeast entrance first, so people
Do I look
can
at my
see.
bomb yet?
Oh yes, you do.
Well, you don't sound you do.
I'll just put this
All right,
through,
then, go
look,
on, then, go on.
and then I'll see your bombing.
Right. I tell you what, I'll watch yours and you watch mine.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I remember saying that to girl when I was young. This is the southeast side of Maincroft Towers, John. Look.
It's a lovely building.
But
Now,
look-
please, can I show you my piece of film?
Yeah, certainly. But I'll just show.
Indeed, this is one of the guidance vanes of the German V1 flying bomb that came down in the garden towards the latter stages of the war, November 1944. Unfortunately, it caused extensive damage to the house, but fortunately nobody was hurt. I understand that the flying bomb had been directed towards Coventry in the Midlands, and the anti-aircraft batteries at Hopton managed to wing it, but they didn't succeed in bringing it down over the sea, and of course it landed here in what used to be a shrubbery with some quite tall trees. No, it's been restored very well, I think. It's a credit to the builders who actually did the restoration, that they managed to match everything in pretty well.
Shipyards, John, they're the men who helped to build the minesweepers and that during the war. I must apologise for not having one of Brooks, but... Yeah, John has that ship what let go of that balloon. But this is the T-piece round by the sail ring. There you can see the ship's hit and the market badly damaged. This one I'll put in, John, because if you look right at the right hand corner you'll see the little old beach baffle opposite the market.
Yeah, top right.
And yeah, and there was another bomb dropped over the other side there which was nearer to the baffle than this one, but you can see how that little old baffle escaped the war years, and they're still standing and going strong. What we're looking at here, John, is a public upright shelter. They didn't sink them all below ground, you know, they built some standing up above ground. And the bomb of it, this shelter, in the background you can see prices. And if you look over to the right a bit, you'll see the Hampton Dock where all the MTBs were. This was more or less at the beginning of the war, John. These German aircraft, when they crossed over to bomb England, they used to machine gun and bomb the light ships, what weren't armed. And there you can see the crew of the light ship getting away from the... but even then they used to machine gun them. Same as our pilots, when our pilots bailed out. They used to machine gun the pilots going down in parachutes.
That's why I don't like the German winning at the Olympics and things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean... Yeah, John, suddenly it was all over. We covered all the youth movements, the forces, we covered the bombing, we covered the patrol service, coastal forces, and here we are, celebrating victory. The war being over, along came the victory parties, John. This one is in Worthing Road, and as you know there were several over the town. I was in the Far East when all this lot was going on, so... But this is the one of the victory parties. This is the Bevan Street victory party, John. Some of them old kiddies went through some of the bombing, you know.
Well, you know, Jack, I think the women with families during the war deserves a special mention. They had a lot to put up with while their men were away, and Joan Rogers, now living in Kirkley Cliff, has a special tribute dedicated to all the mums.
How proud we were when our 8th Army pressed on from Tobruk to Rome. There were sights just astern you could see back here at home. The grand old girls of Lowestoft, some well past their prime, never wanting any medals, though they earned 'em all the time. Shopping every day with a ration book, in the hope of finding something they could cook. With weary feet and shoulders bowed, they toddled down the high street to join the cooing crowd. Some poor old girls of Britain had got rheumatism in their legs, marching up and down the street so as not to miss the eggs. They'd scoff at tins of pineapple or a posh new hat, but would have climbed up half a mountain for a bit of cooking fat. Some dear old girls of Britain were mighty hard to beat, sharper than Sherlock Holmes, searching out food to eat. They gazed behind the counters with eyes sharp and keen. They knew what they were after, but 'twas very seldom seen. Some poor old girls of Britain have got arthritis in their joints, dodging in and out of shops to get value for their points. So, now you youngsters of yesteryear, still in the prime of your life, feeling fit and fine, in spite of the war years of strife, you owe it to your mothers who stood there in the queue, getting things not for themselves, but getting them for you.
Well, Jack, we've come to the end of our Lowestoft War. It's our famous memorial. It's what, 50 odd years ago since it's over. We never want to see another war like that, do we, son?
We certainly don't, John. We've seen enough war in our time, and even if we were only youngsters then, but when you look around, you don't want to wish war on anybody.
And when this video is shown at schools and the colleges and where young people are, I hope that it will be a reminder of how their older parents and grandparents went through on this frontline town.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I go round the schools, John, and I try to teach the youngsters what their granddads and that went through for them.
Till we meet again, Jack.
Till we meet again, John, farewell. Never goodbye, old friend, always farewell.